Welcome to the lesson. I'm Teacher Dan. Let's get into it. This lesson is called Answering Basic Questions. Now, basic questions are very common when we learn English. They're very common when we learn English, but very rarely do we answer them in real life because they're so basic. Because they're so basic, they seem very easy to answer. They seem very easy to answer, and when we're learning, the teacher will usually teach this lesson very quickly, and you understand the lesson very quickly. It's very easy to understand basic questions about your hometown, or about cooking, or about art. Why would we need to practice basic questions? The reason we need to practice basic questions is because on every exam, you will be asked a basic question. Now, it seems like because they are worth a small portion or a small amount of your final score, that they are not important. This is a mistake. Basic questions are very important because you will hear them throughout your entire life. Whether you are studying English to go abroad or to improve your career, whenever you meet a new client or a new coworker or a new boss, whenever you go to a new school, whenever you go to the airport and you're just sitting and waiting, especially in a foreign and a Western country, very, very common to talk to strangers or to be approached by a stranger. And guess what every stranger talks about? These basic questions. So, even though they are not worth many points on the IELTS exam, they are, in fact, a real opportunity to gain a lot of points for your band score. Right? Whatever your band score goal is, if you follow the 7 steps to band 9 method created by me, you will learn that if you answer every single question the same way every single time, you can get a band 9. I know. This is an unusual strategy, something you may not have heard before. However, I assure you I am an expert, and what you learn today is going to be one of the first steps to getting a band 9 easy. So, let's quickly go over what are they? What are the basic questions? The basic questions are, tell me about your hometown. Do you like cooking? Can you cook? Are you good at cooking? What's your favorite food? Do you like art? Do you enjoy art? Are you good at making art? Where is your hometown? What do you like about your hometown? Is your hometown in the countryside or in the city? And blah, blah, blah. There are so many of these basic questions, but luckily for you that you have enrolled in this course, you will see that however, luckily for you, you are enrolled in this course, so you will see that all all questions are the same, including these basic questions. So let's go over some vocabulary we need to answer our basic questions. Basic questions require vocabulary that you learn very early in your English studies, but don't often use in more advanced lessons. Why? You know, all I can say is over my years of study and research and teaching, it's common to believe that English gets more and more difficult as you widen your knowledge about different subjects. And while in a certain extent this is true, but just because English gets more and more difficult, requiring more and more vocabulary and using more difficult or complex grammar more often, right? Just because it becomes more difficult as you advance in your English studies, it is a misconception. It is an easy thing to be tricked by, because the more and more difficult English actually becomes less and less important. You'll see what happens. You'll see what I mean. It is actually being able to use basic English very skillfully, which it really shows a strong command, and which will really make you a popular English speaker, which, here's a secret, that's the goal. The goal is not to know a lot of vocabulary or to be able to talk quickly. No. That's not why we speak English. We speak English so that people enjoy speaking English with us. And this one change in your mind will advance your career, will make your studies easier, will make you more popular, you will have more friends, you will have a much better and richer and more fulfilling life. Forget about grades. Forget about scores. We learn English so that we can speak English more happily, so that we can be more friendly and more useful. All right, let's get into it. So, the vocab that we need for speaking about basic questions are vocabulary of body movement and the vocabulary of emotions and feelings, all right? So it's what we do and what we feel, what we think, all right? These basic questions are boring. They're just boring. We all know it. No one likes to answer them. The teachers, whenever a teacher asks you about your hometown or your hobbies, they start to yawn because they are boring. But the reason they are boring is because we only learn how to answer them in a boring way. Everyone answers them the same. Tell me about your hometown. My hometown is in the countryside. The name of my hometown is blah, blah, blah. There is a lake, and we have a coffee shop. My hometown is near the mountains. The weather in my hometown is so peaceful, blah, 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 boring. Let's fix this problem. So, we'll start with body movements, okay? Here you go. This is a phrasal verb. All right? People are afraid of phrasal verbs. They seem difficult to learn. It's like they're not used often. But if we learn a few, we can use them all the time. Pick up, put down. I'm sure you actually learned these already. These pick up and put down phrasal verbs. They're like the number one and number two things you learn after turn on or switch on the light, right? You just don't use them enough. But they're very useful. Pick up, put down, sit, stay, wait, rest, hold. These are the body movements. Hold and what else do we need? Up, watch. Right? It seems like I'm writing vocabulary for babies. But you've been using these words incorrectly your whole life. We're going to fix that. Handle. These are all vocabulary that are easy to use, easy to learn. I pick up, I put down, I stay, I wait, I sit, I rest, I hold, I watch, I handle. And this is the verb handle, not the handle of a pot. Handle means to, it's a synonym of hold, but it's a hold and move. It's a combination of holding something and moving it in a way. Walk. Now, we don't want to actually say walk. We want to change that word to stroll. Stroll. Okay? If you're really good, some of you might be, this has a different feeling. You can say it off. Meander. All right, that's a higher level word, but completely unnecessary for the IELTS test, just for your life. All right. The reason I write it is because this is the emotion, or this is the undertone, undercurrent, or sub-meaning that we need to convey when we talk about walking or strolling. All right, we need to know basic body movements. Eyes blink and watch. And Look is so common, I don't want to write it, but you may use it. Watch, look, and blink, all right? With your mouth, you yawn. You also bite and chew. With your hands, you got to know your hand words, hand and arms. This is important, all right? Pound, boom, 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 boom. You hit, boom, boom. You punch, you kick, you flap, you flip things. All right, and then you also stretch. And with your ears, you listen. I think that's the long and short of it. That's it. That's what you need. How many words is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 24 words. And I would bet you already know 23 of them. You already know how to use 23 of them easy. You just have been neglected. You have forgotten these basic words in order to learn more difficult subjects, which is understandable, but we are going to fix this problem. All right. Now, you also need emotion words. I'll pull out a couple, but these are so basic, because actually, speaking about emotions is not as friendly, or speaking about emotions is extremely informal. It's something you do with your close friends. And in the case of the IELTS test, or other strangers, or just in your entire life, you really don't need very strong or deep emotional words to be interested, all right? Because people, strangers and coworkers and acquaintances don't get to express emotions often, and they don't hear about emotions often. So even very light or very easy emotional words will really draw them in and connect them to what you're saying. I believe this list covers all of the emotional words you will need. All right? This should cover everything you need to make interesting and engaging answers to your basic questions. We have love. Come on, that's me. Love, hate, wish, dream, fear. Now I say excitement here. The trick is we are going to have to be able to play with these words to make them adjectives, right? To make them adjectives and maybe make some adverbs, maybe, but usually we just need to make them adjectives, all right? Excitement. Now, it's in Vietnam, it's special, but where I teach now. But I think all over, people learn peaceful and they just use it to death. So even though peaceful is acceptable for your life outside of the IELTS test, yes. Outside of the IELTS exam, peaceful is actually very good and powerful. People love to hear it. Normal people. But examiners don't. So that's why I just, if you're going to say peace, if you want to talk about your hometown being peaceful, you're going to have to change it. Just change it from an adjective, all right, to a noun. I feel at peace in my hometown. That's why it's peace and not peaceful. All right, that's really the only reason. Just in this case, examiners always hear that, and it's not going to work. Passion, solitude / lonely. Now, solitude has a slightly different meaning than lonely, right? Because lonely is a negative word, but solitude not necessarily negative, not always negative. Some people enjoy solitude. It's a good replacement for peaceful. All right, we just have to use it. We just have to practice using it. I love my hometown. There are not very many people there. I have a place that I really love to sit. This park is empty. I just enjoy, which I forgot to write. I just enjoy my solitude. Right? It's the same thing. It's a place I love to sit because it is peaceful. It is quiet and peaceful. You can't say that in this case. In the rest of your life, you can. But for this test, you can't say it. You have to say something else. So solitude is a good replacement. Lonely. Pumped. Pumped is actually an advanced word, rarely used by non-native speakers. Right? If you're a native speaker, you know pumped, you use it. It's a friendly word. It's a good word you can use on the test. So you should practice it. It's close to excited or enthusiastic. But those are big words, difficult to pronounce. Because I'm the best IELTS teacher in the world, I'm going to teach you easy words, right? That work with your strengths and hide your weaknesses. We don't want to say I'm enthusiastic about blah, 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 blah. Just say every time I play football, I feel pumped. You don't have to say excited. You don't have to try to say excited. I wrote excitement. But I wrote it next to pumped because you can always use pumped instead of excitement if you have a difficulty with some pronunciation. Heavy, all right? Now we know heavy means things that are heavy, and light means things that are not heavy. And now some of you might These are also emotional words. In general, light is positive and heavy is negative. That's the meaning. So if whatever you're doing makes you feel good, it makes you feel light. If whatever you're talking about makes you feel bad, then you can say it makes you feel heavy. Positive and negative. Don't think about it more deeply than that. You may go on the internet and find other connotations, other meanings for these words. This test is going to be easy for you if you just follow easy guidelines, okay? Light is good or positive, heavy is negative, okay? Introverted, that's a more advanced word, right? It's a more advanced word, but it is more common than solitude. It is similar. People who like solitude are introverted. And I'm certain you have heard introvert or introverted or seen that word. It is very, very, very common. All right? Very common, especially if you have studied IELTS or if you have used the internet in the last 10 years. Introverted. And you know, obviously, the antonym or opposite of that, extrovert. Less common, but optimistic. If you have studied IELTS, you had to learn the word optimistic and pessimistic. Now, introverted does not mean pessimistic, but it is not the opposite, but almost the opposite of optimistic, okay? So, if you think of optimist or optimistic, don't think of pessimistic, think of introverted. And that's it, that's our vocabulary. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. 14 words plus these 24 words. That's 38. That's the entire new, old vocabulary you have to learn. Because you know all of these words. You know most of these words. 90%, 95% you already know. You just need to use them in answering every question on the exam. Every question, you will use these words. This will be easy. All right, let's go to the next part. The technique overview. All right? Now, you have heard me say already that your job in this course, what I need you to learn is that you will answer every question on this test the same. Every speaking question answered the same way. Every writing question answered the same way. And actually, it's pretty close to the way you answer speaking. They're a bit related. We're talking about speaking right now. You're going to answer every question the same way. You're going to use the easiest words you know to answer in the easiest way possible in order for you to get a high band score. Again, big vocabulary, yes, of course. A person with a band 9 is going to have a big vocabulary. They're going to know many words about many different topics, but you don't use those words unless you're talking about those topics, right? In general, 99% of the time, you talk about normal things. You talk about basic things, like these basic questions. So, You're going to use the difference between a band, 2, 3 is band 2 will struggle. They know the word, but they just have difficulty using it. And the band 9, right, knows the word, and they can use it at any time they want to, anytime they need to show more than the basic meaning. That's the difference between a low band score and a high band score. It is not big words. It is not complex grammar. It's using a word, right, that has a basic meaning, but also using it for subtext, using it for alternate meanings. Most words have emotions, or they're called aspects. They have different aspects. That's the technical term, right? They have, some are positive words, some are negative words, right? When you say a word, when a native speaker hears it, it gives the meaning of the word, but also the emotion that they should feel when they're listening to you. All right? It's very complex, and you don't need to know all of that, because this course is about helping you get a high band score and not about making you an expert and native speaker in English. All right, so this is an IELTS course. This is to help you pass the test. Actually, I don't care, and you shouldn't care if you are a great speaker. Not that many people are, actually. Even natives usually are not that good. They just know from practice. They know from practice and listening and using the same words over and over. They know the pattern, and that's what you're going to learn. I give you these basic words because when you use them, right, you will be forced to add the extra meaning. You will be forced to add the extra meaning by using these basic words in the right way. Even if you don't know the extra meaning, it will come through, and your examiner will know and give you a higher band score. All right? Also, this is not the overall goal of the course, but the technique has an added benefit. Right? Besides you learning how to answer every question the same, besides making this the easiest test you ever take, besides getting you the highest band score you can get, if you learn this, you will become popular. This is going to make you a popular person. It's just, you will learn the English that people like to hear. You'll be popular. You'll be, again, like I said earlier, you will get promotions, make friends, you'll meet strangers, you'll be able to date, you will be more confident, and more people will talk to you. So your English will actually improve. All right, let's get into the technique, okay? Now, because we're talking about basic questions, we're going to practice step 1, step 2, and step 3 of my 7 steps to band 9 course. All right, so we're going to do step 1, step 2, and step 3 now.